people can watch the recording. We are recording now. Okay, Priya,
right,
we are recording.
Okay. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, depending on which part of the world you have joined us today. I am Priya Patra, and I'm the lead of Women Power Up Network. We have Cecilia Boji. She is our Latin America lead. Cecilia, please say hi to everyone.
Hi everyone from wherever you are connected today, or if you are watching the recording. I'm sure you will enjoy this session. It's a pleasure to have Vanessa in this session, so I'm sure you will enjoy. Hello.
Thank you, Cecilia.
Thank you.
We have Priscilla, who is our social media champion. So, Priscilla, would you want to say hi to everyone?
Hi, everyone. Good morning from Brazil. I'm super happy to be here today with you. Thank you, Vanessa, and thank you for attending the session.
Thank you, Priscilla, for joining us on Mother's Day. We celebrate Mother's Day tomorrow. So, yeah, thank you for taking out time on this special day. And we have Shivantika, who is our newsletter editor, on the call today. Shivantika.
Hi everyone, I'm Shivantika all the way from Colombo, Sri Lanka. Thank you very much for joining with us. Let's enjoy this amazing session with Vanessa. Over to you, Priya.
Thank you, Shivantika. And as we said, please say hello to everyone and let us know from where you have joined in today by taking the poll menti.com 48773065. It is on the chat window as well. But before we get started, some housekeeping rules. We are here to celebrate women leadership, and we are all speaking on our individual capacity. Our views expressed here do not anyway represent the organization that we work for. This meeting has been recorded, so if you are uncomfortable in any ways, please feel free to hop out of the event. If not, you are welcome to join our celebration. With this, let me give you a brief about our community. As I said, our community is Women Power Up Network, and theme of this year is Remarkable and Rising. And Priscilla will talk a little more in a few minutes from now. But let me tell you what this community is all about. This community was incepted on Jan 26, 2020, just before COVID, and we took advantage of the virtual world during COVID and expanded our boundaries. We are not a business, but we are a community with a purpose. We have lots and lots of members in our community. We have two groups, LinkedIn as well as Facebook groups, and I think we have precisely 950 plus women members across the globe in those groups. Our vision is to empower everyone with the right support and skill to transform the future. And right now, we are providing this platform to enhance our leadership qualities. We truly believe being good enough is amazing, and we really do not need to be a subject matter expert to power each other up. And when many such good enough people come together like us, we power each other up, and hence we say we power up, and together we rise. But before we move on, let us join our hands together for our partners who have been supporting us for 5 years now. We have PMI Slovenia, we have PMI Buenos Aires, Argentina, PMO officers, IAPM, Agnostic Agile Community, Scrum D London, Agile Spain, and our newest partner or collaborator is Peers Insights. Our technology partner is Smart Work AR, and Cecilia will put the link on the chat window for Smart Work AR. Please to visit their website. They do pretty cool stuff with AR and VR, which is the future, I believe, today. And with this, I hand over the stage to Priscilla to talk about our vision of this year and more.
Okay, thank you, Priya. So welcome again. I have a few words to share with you about our theme of the year. Recap on our focus for the upcoming year is encapsulated in the theme Remarkable and Rising. Leadership is not a title, it's a journey, one of self-discovery, resilience, and transformation. Remarkable and Rising is more than just a theme, it's a movement. Please join us in this movement. It's about recognizing our unique strengths, transcending limitations, and systematically evolving into the most powerful version of ourselves. This year, let us embrace bold aspirations, continuous learning, and unwavering self-belief. Let us support one another in breaking barriers, amplifying our voices, and stepping into the spaces where we belong. Together, as a community of women who uplift and inspire, we will not just rise, we will redefine what it means to be remarkable. Every month, we will share our remarkable and rising stories. You're invited to share yours too, and how we have evolved to be the leader that we are today. This will be published in our monthly newsletter, so you can have a space there too. You can subscribe by scanning the QR code, or we are going to share also the link in the chat window. So you can also participate sharing a book. So you can submit your book using also another link and filling the Google form.
Yeah.
The next one,
And I
please.
would also invite Shivantika, right now the editor of our newsletter, to say a few words and invite people to submit their content for our newsletter.
Right. Thank you very much, Priya. So I'm the editor of Women Power Empowered newsletter. It's a really amazing newsletter. So I invite all of amazing ladies to join with us, subscribe, and also share your empowered or remarkable stories with us. We are eagerly waiting to share your experience, thoughts with this community. So we'll share the links, our social media links, as Priscilla said in our chat box. So I invite all of you to join with us, read the newsletter, and get inspired yourself. Thank you, Priya. Over to you.
Thank you, Shivantika. And Priscilla, back
Back
to
to
you.
me. Yeah. And we also have a special invitation for you. We need you. So we are inviting purpose-driven individuals like you of all genders to join our global community and help us power up through connection, creativity, and leadership. Currently, we have 2 positions available: social media champion and website design and development. Both roles are 100% remote. So if you are interested or know someone who can be, please apply using the link shared in the chat. So thank you. Over to you, Cecilia.
Cecilia,
Thank you, Priscilla.
The facilitator of the day, Cecilia.
Yes, thank you, Priscilla and Priya. And yes, I have the pleasure to introduce you, Vanessa Cilio. Here it will be a great session, as I said previously. Vanessa is a software engineer with a strong track record in large-scale innovation leadership. She currently serves as Senior Director of Engineering. It changed the presentation, or are you still sharing? It's okay? Okay.
No, Cecilia, I think I'm seeing Vanessa's screen.
Vanessa's
screen.
okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Fine,
Okay.
The yellow presentation?
No,
Yes,
it's
it's
fine.
okay. It's okay. It's fine. Okay. As I said, Vanessa is a software engineer with a strong track record in large-scale innovation leadership. She currently serves as Senior Director of Engineering at Salesforce and sits on the board of Chicas en Tecnología, Girls in Technology, with 20 years of experience driving large-scale software development and early technology adoption across diverse markets. She brings a strategic and results-oriented perspective to organizational leadership. Her expertise spans multiple dimensions: complexity, scale, technology, geographies, and business models, enabling her to advise boards and executive teams on how to navigate innovation, digital transformation, and uncertainty effectively. She believes that curiosity fuels change and that commitment powers meaningful transformation. She's passionate about building organizations that are not only technological advanced, but also equitable and collaborative. With this, I hand over the stage to Vanessa. Vanessa, please.
Thank you,
I
Cecilia.
You're welcome.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes, Vanessa.
Cool. Thank you. So, thank you, Cecilia. Thank you, Women Power Up. As I post in LinkedIn, I love tending bridges. I think that in this women community, the best thing we can do is leverage our other orgs and other women to help each other and be all in a similar page. So when Cecilia pinged me and invited me, I said, hey, I would love to talk about self-advocacy. Despite it's really hard because, one of the things that hits us as women is imposter syndrome every time. So every time somebody invites me to talk about me and my trajectory, I said, well, I don't know who's going to come. Maybe I'm not that, I am not the right person. And I feel that people around me admire a lot my journey more than what I admire my journey myself. So the first time somebody contacted me, it was maybe 10 years ago. It was, 12 years ago, to go to Washington to talk about my trajectory. And I felt like, what the hell is going on? Why this women is pinging me to travel like 12 hours to speak about my trajectory? I'm a woman from Latin America, South America. What the hell is going on? So instead of saying no, I said yes. And I prepared this presentation. I was sharing with somebody that knew me a lot. That was my English teacher. And I said, hey, we've been studying together for the past 12 years. So now, and you have a lot of experience related to storytelling and speech. I don't want a coach. I need you that know me a lot to help me prepare this presentation where I'm basically going to talk about myself. Side note about that event, I was 6 months pregnant, so I have to travel 12 hours. I went there. I had a lot of jet lag, and it was really hard for me to stand up there. It was a huge hotel with about 500 people, and everybody was super interested about my journey. So imposter syndrome hit me even harder when I was there. I think that I did it okay because we are still working with Wonder Women Tech. That is the org that I went there. So going to the point, when I started preparing this presentation, I told my English teacher that it was not a coach, that was not a storyteller, that was not somebody you should ping in order to prepare these famous events. I told, hey, I want to transmit my passion and I want to be bold as I am. This is my office in my house, and I have my board and my notes. Of course, I have private notes, but my notes are open. And I mean, I think that the first key to transmit something is being bold, being transparent, show what you are. Don't make up anything. This is what I am, and this is what you are going to buy when you buy my when you buy my job, or if we work together. So I said, hey, I'm a passionate woman. I want to share passion. I want to share genuinity. So how should I start putting up together my story? So this teacher said, hey,
let's do something. Let's do something different. Let's talk about your story as a toolbox that you make up, putting up all the things that you've done in your life. So, and while we were preparing this presentation, we figured out that whenever I am doing something, I'm always thinking, hey, what's next? And now, and what's next? And what's next? And every time I start something new, that is a fresh new start for me. No matter my journey, I put the same passion whenever I start something as the passion I put when I was, I don't know, 18 years old and I was doing something. So basically that's why I named my presentation What's Next as the starting point. Side note, please interrupt me anytime. I have my presentation here so that I can see the camera here, and if you raise your hand, I guess that I should see it. If not, please interrupt me. Okay. So, and the idea here is basically use this presentation as a as an excuse, and then start the Q&A and wrap up having an open and bold conversation related to my story. So let me 1 second because I don't know if you see. Do you see my screen? Do you see, I don't know, the titles or?
Yes.
Yes.
And we see the toolbar as well.
Well, okay. So, I'm Ana Cecilio. I am 43 years old. I'm from Argentina. I put a map in here because there's many people that does not know where Argentina is. Argentina is in here is Argentina, South America. Here is Brazil, where Priscilla is, and this is America basically. And as I said, I'm an engineering director. I was born and raised in South America, despite I did many programs and master in the US. And when I was 23 years old, I've been offered to work for Microsoft. So I moved for 2 years to Redmond, near Seattle, in order to work for Microsoft. I have 3 kids, 3 very young kids, 6, 3, and 1. And I've been working for software companies for basically the past 20 years. So where my story begins. I finished school when I was 18, sorry. And I had very clear picture of what I wanted to do for living, and that was medicine. So I basically got into medical school because I love medicine. In fact, right now, if you see my LinkedIn, I have a lot of red course with medicine. I was invited to a program in Singularity University this week. I worked for helping many medical institutes in order to improve how they adopt AI. So long story short, I studied medicine for 5 years, for 4.5 years. That was 2021. 2021 was a very heavy moment for my country because there was a lot of poverty. We had a lot of politics issues. So in that moment, I had to go to a hospital, to a public hospital, to start practicing medicine. And it was really shocking for me. I couldn't take it. It was like, I cannot see people suffering, but I was a doctor, but I was not a doctor. I was super close to become a doctor. I said, hey, I cannot keep up with all this. So I decided to quit medicine school. 6 months after that, I told my parents, say, hey, sorry, I have something to tell you. I quit the medicine school, and I'm going to be a software engineer. Of course, my father, that is a very good man, told me to leave the house because he was very upset with me. We talk about that many years after that, but the first year was super tough for them, because they were doing a lot of efforts in order for me to become a doctor. And all of a sudden I said, I don't want to be a doctor. So they become super crazy about it. And I started the software engineer. So I think that was my first what's next in life. All of a sudden, I was sleeping in a friend's couch without a career, without my family backing me up, uh, with a lot of medical knowledge, and with a lot of software engineering knowledge. I'm going to tell you why I had a lot of software engineering knowledge, but without a concrete career. So it was like, I guess that moment, I can remember very well that night. Like I was like eating pasta saying, what the hell I'm going to do? That was my first aha moment in my life. So that how's my story begin. So why I say I had gaming experience, something super bold about my life. When I was 15 years old, my brother, I have only one brother, got some heavy back problem, and he had to be in bed for 1 year. So he couldn't move, and I was 15 and he was 17. It was like, okay, what should we do together? You are 17 years old, you have a lot of friends, but you cannot go to school. You have to be in bed for 1 year. So basically, my life was going to school, going back home, and play video games with my brother. And all of a sudden, if you are as old as me, if you remember that you have like 20 discs in order to load a game. So that was that time. And all of a sudden we finished that game and we wanted another game, and we had to change some plaques, like the memory or the video plaque or that. So basically I spent 5 years of my life in the first year, because that illness was not 1 year, it was 3 or 4 years. So my first 2 years of medical school was going to medical school and then going to a place here in Argentina when you can buy Galeria Jardín, if there's somebody from Argentina, from Buenos Aires, where you can buy all the games and that. So I had a lot of gaming experience. I had a lot of gaming hacking experience. I had a lot of scientific study. So that's why I said, hey, okay, that was my toolbox when I was 23 years old. I had a scientific study and gaming experience, but nothing else. What happened next? Before founding my company, I said something about founding my company. I said, okay, I started working. So I was sleeping in my friend's couch. I started working for a company in the lowest position ever, because I had to earn money. Because my parents hate me. So no, my parents didn't hate me. They were really, really, really bad at me. And now that I have 3 kids, I don't know if I would have done the same, to be honest. It was a tricky decision from a 23-year-old girl. It was. So I finished, there you see where I finished my engineering studies. It was super, super straightforward. It was like 5 years after that. It was not simple career, but it was not as tough as medicine, of course. I remember that in my course, it was like 40 men and me. I was the only woman there. And they were like, oh, we have to study the whole weekend because we have this exam. And I said, really? I studied medicine. This is a piece of cake. I mean, you shouldn't be crying about this subject. The link seems broke. Which one? Okay. I started working. I was in first year of career. I started working in the lowest position from a newspaper, a very famous newspaper in South America called Clarín. And my duties were super basically. I was like editing some HTML stuff, but I was not doing very heavy development work, but I was close to development work. I was doing I was studying, and something that I learned from that job is that I was super constant, and I'm super curious, because I was like, everybody was like, oh, this is what we have to do, okay, and they were doing their job, and I was going beyond all the time, because that, for me, that was my passion. for me, medicine was not my passion. So every single line of code for me was something that blew up my mind. Every problem that we had to stay, I don't know, overnight to solve, because at that moment, IT people worked in basements and work overnight. Not as now that we work in fancy places with lovely coffee. That is not, that was like 20 years ago. So at that so as I was super curious and I was super passionate about my job, because it was like mind-blowing. I couldn't believe that I was living from my dream 2 years after dropping medical school. So I couldn't believe that. By that time I was living back with my parents and they loved me again, but but by that time, so for me, everything was amazing. Everything was alike. I was like, I don't know, like a baby exploring everything, every single line of code as something new. So at that moment, I met a manager that was there poking around, and one day, and a manager. I had a manager, but basically that manager was around. He was not my direct manager. He was an architecture manager. And he said, hey, I have an opportunity to work for Microsoft, to travel and go to the US. So if you want to, if you want to take the exam, he told that to everybody in the room. If you want to take the exam, you feel free to do so. Of course, that invitation was for everybody but me because I had the lowest position. So I called a director and I said, hey, I would like to sit for the exam. And this guy told me, hey, Vane, you shouldn't expose that much because you've been here for 1 year and you don't have that much experience. And I said, well, but I would like to just for a training. What Vanessa did, spend the whole week studying, and all of a sudden I took the highest note for that exam without having the experience and without, I don't know, it was amazing. So all of a sudden, somebody said, who's this lady? Who's this lady that took this grade? Let's have a conversation. And all of a sudden, I wasn't finished school and I was working for Microsoft in the US. That was 3 years after I quit medical school. So I love this phrase. I remember that when I landed there, part of the onboarding process was a video from Bill Gates. And by that time, you could see Bill Gates around. And you could see the Aussie brothers that were his right and left hand around. So it was like mind-blowing for me. Super mind-blowing for me. I put this phrase here because I love it. That is, success is a lousy teacher. It seduces smart people into thinking they can lose. So I think that was the key. So second aha moment, I was close to Seattle when I was like 2 years after quitting medical school. I said, oh, hey, what do I have in my toolbox? Okay, I have the scientific study because that is something that I will keep on having in my backpack. I have the gaming experience. Now I have the corporate experience because I work for Clarin, that is a huge corporate, and I'm working for Microsoft, and now I have the international network experience. Oh, mind-blowing. I cannot believe it. Of course, I did this 20 years after that happened. Remember that I put together this presentation 3 years ago. Of course, I updated some info here, but what I want to transmit here is that if we go back, I am sure that you will be able to put together something similar with your toolbox. So I was 27. I could add the corporate experience, and I figured out that I've been always looking for inspirations instead of models. Every time I met somebody super important in the US or in Microsoft, I said, hey, can we have a coffee? What inspires you? What is your passion? Because I figured out that I am not afraid of saying, hey, this is not my passion, I'm going to quit. I'm not afraid of that. I find a way of doing that. I had an interesting conversation with a mentor. I'm going to talk about mentors when I wrap up my presentation, but I had an interesting conversation last week with a mentor. With a mentor I share with Lucas, that is in the meeting, that is Nicolás Isola, that lives in Spain. And I said, hey, I don't like this part of my career. I think that I'm going to drop this. But I think that I am crazy. Why do I have this mindset? And he said, hey, Vane, you were not afraid at 23 years old quitting medical school when you know that your father was going to kick you out of your house, of your child house. You are not afraid. You just do it because you didn't like it, because that was hurting your feelings. Medical school was hurting my feelings, was hurting myself. So why are you going to be afraid of dropping something when you are 43 and you are kind of all set in your career? I mean, that is natural. So I think that looking for inspiration and driving my career with passions being a key part of my toolbox as well. So I spend a lot of time in my life getting lost, as you can figure out, to find myself. And as I said, I guess that my second or third aha moment was when I was in the US. Sorry, another parenthesis, because I know that there's a lot of people from India and around the world. I remember when I landed in the US, I've been studying English since I was 5 years old. So I had like 18 years or 15 years of English study. And when I landed in the US, my boss was from Texas. I couldn't get a single word of what he was saying. A single word. His English was so difficult. And then I went to a supermarket and I met another person, and his accent was impossible. So the entropy, my day-to-day entropy was really complex, really complex. I remember wrapping up my day, and we didn't have Duolingo and we didn't have any tool to practice English. So I remember that when I wrap up my day, 5 p.m., I used to go around or go to the supermarket to talk to people to get used to the accent, because it was really hard for me to work day to day. That is a side note. That is a side note. But I remember that it was like, oh my God, what I'm going to do? I all of a sudden, English is my mother tongue. I spoke Italian with my grandparents. So I know how to speak fluent Spanish and Italian. I did my university career at that moment in Spanish, so it was really hard for me to I don't know, to communicate 24/7 in English. Something that seems easy, it was super difficult. Despite I had a very good education, and despite I had a bilingual education, it's not the same. But I went through it. I survived, as you can see. And I practiced my English, and here we are. So, as I said, I mean, I truly believe in inspiration, and I wanted to have a separate chapter in my career about Chicas en Tecnología and about teaching. Translation of Chicas en Tecnología is Girls in Technology. It's a TLDR conversation between the board. It's like, hey, should we translate our name? No, we shouldn't, because it's for Latin America. Despite we have a lot of regics, and despite the European Union funds many of our programs, most of the programs are tied to Latin America. So there's a separate charter, or there's I don't know, there's a chapter that is Cross My Story, that is teaching and speaking. Something interesting about teaching. When I was studying software engineering, and I finished college. Sorry, I finished university. A teacher told me, "Hey, Vane, we would like you to be teaching us operating system. For those that studied this career, design patterns and operating system were a very tough career. And he said, Vane, you make them sound easy. And I said, but I've studied super complex stuff. super complex and difficult stuff. The main difference between moving from medical school to software engineer is that you cannot kill a computer if you if you skip some part of the book, or if you or if you forget about the name of a bus, of a processor, of a whatever. So for me, I didn't have that pressure on me, and it was easy. And he said, "Hey, Vane, I'd like you to be teaching here." I said, "Hey, I'm not your most capable student here." Imposter syndrome. And he said, "Vane, you make all this sound super easy. I saw you last week teaching all your peers in the coffee shop, something that is super complex, and I know that it's super complex." So I became a teacher, university teacher, and I discovered that I love that. I love like this speaking and teaching and preparing the class, and this mixture between I'm telling you my knowledge, or we are transmitting, and we are building something new together, like a different type of knowledge. So teaching has been an interesting part of my career. All of a sudden, in fact, I quit a university teacher when I had my first daughter, because it was a lot. Believe me, it was a lot. I was working, I had a daughter, I was pregnant, university, it was a lot. So I quit that, but I give conferences, and speaking and teaching is part of my day-to-day. I love that. And also, I became a vocal of Chicas en Tecnología. There was my first conference in Chicas en Tecnología. That I love that picture. Chicas en Tecnología is a NGO that focuses on close the gender gap in STEM and bringing more girls, not women, girls, into STEM careers. By motivation, by education, by showing role models. So I love Chicas en Tecnología. Chicas en Tecnología has been in Latin America for more than 10 years. And now I'm part of the board. And that is one of the things that I think that despite I don't have much time in my life, I would never drop, because I love that. Like bringing more people to this career, that is my passion. So having the corporate experience, international network experience, and inspiration, one day I had another aha moment, and I had a light turning in my head, and that is polar VR development. And they are the most funniest picture I have for that moment. The first picture is when we screwed with one of our main customers. It was like 5 a.m. in the morning, and I was laughing. I was saying, "Hey, nobody died. We are going to fix it. Calm down. Let's get a coffee." And somebody took me that picture saying, "What do you want me to do? I haven't slept for 2 days. We are going to solve it." This happens all the time. And the second is when I am not formal, I am informal, but the marketing team told me, "Hey, Vane, we are going to use some paintings to take some pictures." And all of a sudden, I was all painted, like taking pictures for our website. So let me tell you the stories about this. I was 27. So after 2 years at Redmond, we did a project that was kind of tricky, let's say. I was super tired. I was 27. I was tired, and I wanted to be home. And I was living in Redmond, and I made a decision, quitting Microsoft and going back to Argentina. At that moment, my father told me, "You should stay there." And I said, "Why? I mean, 5 years ago, you told me to basically stay home and go back to medical school, and now you are telling me to go back." So it was funny. At that moment, we were having funny conversations, and my father gave up and said, "Hey, Vane, this is your life. Do whatever you want." So when I came back from Microsoft, I went back to Clarín, that is this newspaper I was working for. Of course, in a management position. It was a completely different position. And I found a different company. I found in a different role, of course. I was individual contributor when I went to the US, and when I came back, all of a sudden I was I was a manager. So after all that experience, international networking, I say, hey, there's a better way of doing software. Definitely there's a better way of doing software. So I started my company. I said, let's do software in a different way. It was not that easy. It was a different context. I had a customer that was contacting me and saying, hey, Vane, I would like you to build my software. So long story short, I started my my company that was Polar Bear Development, and that company was focused on, it was a boutique, it was a 25 people company focused on giving complex solutions, like, of course, everything related to architecture. So at that point, I had my medical study that gave me the passion to study software engineer. And I figured out that my medical study gave me the gift of being able to solve complex problems without losing the calm. I could be in the most difficult blackout, in the most difficult step zero, with 20 people and with a CEO yelling at me, that I'll say, calm down, give me a couple of hours, I call you back and I give you a plan of actions without losing my temper at any time. Why? Because I've been in more complex situations. Now I'm going to turn this on, sorry. So at that moment, my company, everybody was calling my company in order to solve complex problems. Say, hey, for example, one of our main customers were History Channel. History Channel were trying to syndicate their content all over the world in different languages with different content sources, with a lot of traffic. Whenever they did a campaign, it was where History Channel and all their channel suites were growing, and they didn't want to lose any customer, so any online customer. So that was one of our main customers. So what I figured out is that I had my company for 9 years, and I drew all the ideas from my previous experience and faced new challenge every day, of course, because I knew a lot about problem solving. I knew a lot about passion. I knew a lot. I'm not afraid of learning a new technology. In fact, right now, if you see my LinkedIn, I'm super vocal about AI. Why? Because I love learning. For me, and I sleep 4 hours a day. But I read a lot because I love learning. I have the learning mindset and the curiosity mindset all the time. I put some order in here, but yesterday I had in here some Arduino plaques because I was putting up something together in order to put together a toy for my daughters using AI. They are fighting a lot, and I said, well, what happens if they have an agent that basically can solve the problems between them, and they can talk, and the agent can show them different ways of solving that problem. So that is my day to day, driving by passion and driving by curiosity. So as I had corporate experience, I had international network experience. I was looking for inspiration and passion. I was not looking for models. And then I learned how to run a company following your values and following your passion. And believe me, that was following my values and following my passion, because I was in many situations where I been pushed to skip my values, and I never done that. And I never done that and follow my passion, because when you are not scared, you can basically you know that you are going to solve any challenge. So after 9 years, I'm going to speed up. After 9 years, I sold my company. About 8-9 years, I sold the company to an American company. Of course, there's a lot of learning about that. That could be a separate chapter for this conversation. All the due diligence, the moment that you said, hey, I don't want to do this anymore. I think that this is a better business to sold it. I sold it to an American company. It was a good decision at that moment. When I sold the company, I'm going to go back and then I'm going to talk about Geopark. And this is a safe space, despite this is recorded. When I sold my company, I thought that I was failing. I said, hey, I failed. And my husband told Vane, you didn't fail. You did something amazing. I mean, you sold the company to an American company and you are still getting value. So I can tell you 7 years after that, that it was the best decision ever. Because after that, many other companies were sold and it was a tricky moment for the industry. But at that moment, that was one of the aha moments that was super tricky for me. I was not depressed, but I was like saying, hey, I failed. I really failed here. And I never felt, that was the first time I felt that in my life, failing. I never felt that way when I quit medical school, or when I quit the corporate, or when I quit Microsoft. I didn't feel I was failing. I felt that moment I was failing. So it was a tough moment. And I went through that moment with mentors, with with my network, with true people from your network, not the people that said you did great. No, not that people. The people that when you screw it, they tell you that you screw it. And that was a huge aha moment in my life when I sold my company, because I didn't know what to do. I mean, I didn't have corporate experience. I had a startup, a lot of startup, but I was my own boss. And what should I do? Should I travel abroad? On the other hand, I wanted to start my family. Despite sometimes it's a decision, it's not. It was like, hey, I want to start my family. And Geopark got into my life. And it was like mind-blowing, because my energy was asking for more challenges in my life. So I could speak hours from Geopark, but basically Geopark was a startup that became APO, and they got and they didn't have a IT department. So they were in the stock market from New York, and they didn't have an IT department. They were in 7 countries, and they didn't have an IT department. And they said, hey, Juan, somebody that went to one of my conferences say, hey, Juan, ping me. I said, Vane, my wife is a leader in Geopark, and I think that you are the perfect fit to be a CTO for this company. Really? I don't have corporate experience. Exactly. We don't need somebody with corporate experience because we are not a corporate. We just went IPO. We are a startup. Despite we have 2,000 people working for us, and despite we are in 7 different countries, we are kind of a startup. So we need somebody that can help us bring the IT department. So I had 14 interviews. And in the interview number 12, I figured out that I was pregnant. So I called them before calling my family. And I said, because calling my mother, I said, hey, thank you very much. I am pregnant. I'm not taking this challenge. And 1 hour after that, the CEO called me and said, hey, Vani, congratulations. If you don't mind, we are going to hire you anyway. And I said, you are crazy. This is my first pregnancy. I don't know how this is going to be. I don't know. Everything is going to be okay. You should join our company. So I joined Geopark with 3-month, 4-month pregnancy. It's insane. And I spent 5 months of pregnancy, or 4 months of pregnancy, traveling through Latin America, to the point that my husband was, Vane, can I go with you? Because you look tired. And he was traveling with me, helping me with my luggage and all that stuff. I tell this story because sometimes somebody says, hey, pregnancy stops your career. And I know that I was super blessed, but I know that was a consequence of what I harvested in my life. I said, hey, being super transparent, being saying, hey, this is what I can give you. This is what we should aim together. Don't hire me as I could be a contractor and say, no, we need to hire you because you are going to build the IT department. So thousands of books, thousands of certifications. There are no books about how to put together an IT department when you just became an IPO. In fact, they became an IPO without having an IT department, which is also a funny case of study. So I was in Geopark for 2 years. Of course, I had my daughter. It was an amazing experience. We built the IT department, amazing IT department, by the way. And after 2.5 years, they said, well, Vane, the company is leaving Argentina, you should move to Colombia. Colombia is a country in South America, a different country. I talked to my family and I said, I don't know if I want to move to Colombia. I would like to stay in Argentina. So I said, okay, let's do something. I had a 8-month-old baby, 1-year-old baby. And I said, hey, let's do something. I'll build your IT department in Colombia, and then I'll stay in Argentina, and I quit. And that was an interesting decision because it was we are friends with the CEO, super friends with the CEO. We have conversations. So it's like, or with the C-level. Because I was super transparent, say, hey, I don't want to move to Colombia, but I know that you have this challenge. Let me help you solve your challenge, and I can stay back. So I had another aha moment, and I said, oh, I have my baby. I've been working for the past 14 years a lot in my life. I want to take a sabbatical. So I agreed with my husband. I was going to take a sabbatical after wrapping up my duties with Geopark. And after 3 months, I was driving crazy. I was a full-time mom. I was driving crazy, completely, insanely crazy. And I went to Salesforce to give a conference through Chicas en Tecnología. And a VP contacted me and said, hey, Vane, what are you doing for a living? And I said, no, I'm taking a sabbatical. And we started some conversations. And 6 years ago, 5 years and a half ago, I joined Salesforce. And it was like, okay, let's, I don't know if I want, and basically they said, I had 14 interviews. And they said, I was working for MuleSoft at that time. And they said, well, we just being acquired by by Salesforce, sorry. We've been acquired by Salesforce, and we need and we have some issues, and we have some complexities related to architecture. We need to solve them. So that's what I joined. I said, well, I'm going to be here for 1 year maybe. And 3 months after that, pandemic began. So all of a sudden, it was pandemic. We were all locked down. My husband is a dental protecist, so basically he was not working. He was cooking all day and taking care of my daughter. And I was here in this office. That was a different layout, but it was this office working. That was in part of Salesforce. I had a lot of challenges. I think that I'm wrapping up my challenges at Salesforce, and I think that my next challenge would be going back to a startup. This is coming soon, I guess, real soon, but we'll see. So you can find me here. You can find me in LinkedIn. Thank you. As a wrap up, I would say look for passions, look for models, look for mentors, like have coffee with people that you admire their journey, despite they might not be in the same career as you. Be you, be genuine. Don't make up a character for LinkedIn. That not work. Definitely don't work. That are my rules. And well, and that's it. I want to save 30 minutes for open questions and debate and whatever you want. I'm going to take some coffee because I spoke a lot.
Oh, thank you, Vanessa. You are very inspiring. I enjoy a lot your presentation and your experience, and I took some notes. I love your toolbox. I'm thinking if all of we have know what our toolbox has, and it's very. I think it's very good to have presently what are our tools. That's a very interesting insight. And also mentoring. We always talk about mentoring. It's a very good idea to have a mentor, to improve our careers and to fight against our fears and of course learning learning mindset. And another thing I love is all above everything is your passion. So thank you very much. I don't have questions, but I am really inspired. Any question
Actually, I
for
have
Vanessa?
one. Can I
Okay,
do?
perfect.
Okay.
Yes, of course.
So thank you, Vanessa. Your journey is really amazing, inspiring. You're super, super smart. I have a question. During all these career changes, of course, you were confronted by your father, by yourself. Which skills and behaviors were the most important during these tough decision times? Besides passion.
It's passion. Besides passion, it's like, I don't know. I'm going to answer that. That's why in one part of my conversation I mentioned a conversation I had with my mentor. I'm going to say something that maybe can answer your question. I'm super bold. I'm super transparent with my life. So this week, my 1-year-old baby I was admitted at hospital, and we went there for a couple of days. He's okay, but I was talking to my mentor, and I said, I cannot, and it was really tough because they had to do something that they tie his hands. It was like, and I said, I cannot, my brain and my mind cannot support this. That's why he replied and said, Vane, maybe you find your kryptonite, and maybe you find something that you don't, that you think that you cannot go through. But I always, and he mentioned, and we had a conversation, and I said, I never doubt of myself. I doubt a lot of myself about the result. I feel uncomfortable. I feel uncomfortable. I feel confused. I feel depressed. I can feel whatever, but I know that I will find a way to solve the problem. I know that. And despite, I know that and I am not afraid of the journey. I am not afraid of the journey. If I have to don't sleep, if I don't have to eat, I am not afraid. It's like, I'll go through and I'll be better in a couple of weeks. And of course, I laugh about it a lot. If you see a picture, one of our customers, was History Channel, was telling us that they were going to sue us. So everybody was crazy. And I said, first solve the problem, then talk to the lawyers. First solve the problem and then talk to the lawyers. And nothing happened. And we solved the problem. It was not our fault, but sometimes you need to first solve the problem. So I think, to sum up, I think that my mental strength of, I know no matter how I am right now, I know that I'm going to solve it, and I know that I am going to be better with a learning in, I don't know, in a certain period of time. Because it was tough. I mean, I'm laughing. My father is the most important man. I wouldn't talk about my father if that wasn't important in my life. It was a tough conversation. Like Christmas, and we're not talking to each other, and my mother was talking to both of us as if we were kids. And also it was very symbolic. He was not talking to me because I made a decision of my life. I was 23. I was a grown up. So, but I know that I'll go through all those challenges. I always know that.
Thank you. And I agree with Cecilia. I think that having this kind of toolbox, I think it's an important exercise, including to self-advocate. I think it gives us strength to self-advocate. So thank you for sharing this tool.
Well, it's So imposter syndrome is going to kick you all the time because you will never be a good fit in any situation, and there's going to be somebody better than you to solve certain problem, always. The thing is that maybe you have something that you don't know that is useful in your toolbox, that it's a better fit for that problem. For example, that's what I talk a lot about my medical training. I know that my medical training made me have a mental temper that you would admire. And it's like, nobody's going to die. I don't care if a processor dies. I don't care if we have if the processor melts. I don't care about that. I mean, there are worse problems. Yeah, and it's a powerful tool to start taking note. For example, please interrupt me. I remember that, well, when I started my company, I mentioned this English challenge. I started working for the UK, and all of a sudden I went to the UK to discuss a contract. I couldn't get a single word of what these English people was telling me. It was like worse than the Texan guy. Oh my God, their accent was impossible. So I remember that we went for a beer with one of the managers, the content manager, that was not directly related to what my company was doing, but we went for a beer. We had a very close relationship with her all over the time. And he said, "Hey, Vane, let me tell you something. Your English is perfect. My English is bullshit. You speak 3 languages. I speak a single one. But somebody said that it's the most important one in the world. But basically, you are smarter than me. So I should make an effort to understand what you are saying instead of you breaking your heart to understand what I say. So if you have to tell me 1,000 times, sorry, I cannot get you, it's my problem if I don't understand that you are the smartest person in the room." And it was like, whoa. And a couple of weeks ago, I had a similar conversation with an EVP from Salesforce. He said something that was super funny. I was super tired. It was like we were doing a planning, and I was like 12 hours working. 9 p.m. for me, my mind was like melting. I couldn't speak a single word in English. And today I'm fresh. It's Saturday morning. My English is super fluent. This does not happen on a Friday 9 p.m. That does not happen. I know that Priya, Shivanka, you can get what I'm saying. That you sometimes work super late and you have to speak English. So, and he said, "Hey, Vane, your Spanish is much better than my English." And he said something like admiring what I said. So sometimes we don't figure out how smart we are for speaking 3 languages. Or having to speak like, sometimes I speak, sometimes. Well, a couple of years ago, my father-in-law passed away, but 2 years ago, but he was living with me. So sometimes my life was, I was speaking English here, and all of a sudden my husband getting here to get a coffee, I was speaking Spanish, and all of a sudden I went to do another coffee, and I met my father-in-law and speak Italian, and I said, "Hey, I'm speaking," like my mind was like Italian, Spanish, English, Italian, Spanish, English. Or for example, if my daughter gets into it, like Spanish and then English. Well, that is a superpower that you cannot imagine you get. Or if you have kids, you don't sleep in the night, and all of a sudden you're here working, solving issues. That is a superpower. All of a sudden you have a house and you are a housekeeper, and all of a sudden you are like talking to a C-level and you have the grocery listing here, for example, and that is also a superpower. And you have to, or you're here and all of a sudden you have in a paper you have, oh, I have to vaccine, oh, the vaccine, oh, the baby have to go to a doctor. Or you are, that is if you have family. Or, hey, I'm working here and my elder one has a, I don't know, fever or whatever. So those are also part of your toolbox. That when you are suffering, you don't figure out that that is going to be part of your toolbox. But I am sure that if you have grown-ups, you said, oh my God, I am superpowered. I have all this in my toolbox. I went through more difficult situations. That's what my mentor did with me on Tuesday. I said, hey, I cannot get through this. I mean, I cannot get through this. And he said, yes, Vane, you can. you are going to be laughing on Friday. Yes, yesterday I was laughing. Eating sushi, celebrating, but Tuesday was tough. Sorry, that's what I didn't post. That's what I was not replying my LinkedIn. I was completely unplugged. Yeah.
Thank you.
My pleasure.
Yeah. So Vanessa, from my side, just sorry, Cecilia, I wanted to ask, get Vanessa's idea on. There have been times that we don't speak up because we think we are wrong, right? Do you face such inhibitions within yourself, and if you do, how do you overcome them?
That is a very good question, and I'm going to be super bold. Yes, I feel that a lot of times, and sometimes I don't speak up. What I've learned, I learned something that it's interesting, that is an interesting or it's a powerful tool for me. In some contexts, I know that I need somebody that can give me space. If I don't have that space, I won't speak up. So in some spaces that are super tough and I don't speak up because I think that what I'm going to say is stupid, or what I'm going to say is useless, or whatever. I feel that the real imposter syndrome. I look for advocates. I look for not mentors. I look for how do I say it in English? For stakeholders would be the word. So I know that there's going to be people that care about me, that support me, and I have a bold conversation saying, hey, I felt in this meeting this and that. I don't take it personal, but I would like you to help me when you know that I can add please invite me to speak, or if I ping you, please invite me to speak. Because mansplaining exists, and because that exists, and sometimes it's super aggressive to say, hey, this guy's mansplaining me, or hey, I get into this meeting and I don't have a voice, because you put all this problem, you convert the problem into an issue to everybody. So instead of doing that, what I decide to do is basically I look for a stakeholder. And I said, hey, in these type of meetings, that happened to me a lot in the architectures meeting with people that is super famous. And I said, hey, I'm going to say something that is super silly, or I don't have context, for example. So I look for an advocate, or I look for a stakeholder.
I have been in situations where I know even if I speak, my idea is going to be shot down. So how do you tackle? And I was very, very frustrated in such meetings. So do you face such issues as well, and how do you tackle them?
Sorry, again, Priya, you feel what? Short term?
I said I have been in situations where
Yes.
I know that even if I speak, my idea will be shot down in that meeting. No one will, they will ignore that idea, and I feel very frustrated in those meetings. And then I decide, okay, forget it. Let them talk what they want to speak, and I'll just be quiet. So, how do you ensure that your voice is heard in such kind of a scenario? I mean, how do you tackle? There is a very emotional situation here, and how do you tackle that?
Yes. First, it's super important that you understand that you don't have the problem. I mean, you feel the consequences, but you don't have the problem. The problem is caused by another person. So this is super important, not to take it personal. The other person has a problem, you feel the consequences. What I do in those spaces, it's super tough what I'm going to say, but if you know that this always happen, you shouldn't be in that meeting. Despite this is there should be, if this is a work situation, there's superior. You say, hey, why am I in this meeting? If I cannot add something, I mean, I don't feel respect. They don't care what I'm saying. It's useless for both of us. Listening mode, I am not. I have a position. I shouldn't be in a meeting listening mode. Because that is not my role. That is not why you are paying me for. So you should help me overcome this situation. But not taking it personal, it's super important. Because you don't have the problem. The other person has the problem. You are suffering the consequences. And there should be somebody in that meeting that should you should in a very polite way and not taking it personal, show the responsible of that meeting the situation, saying, hey, have you figured out that this is not my position? I should be, and this is what it should be happening, that is not happening. How we can make it happen? That is one way. And the other one is the first one I told you. Look for a stakeholder that basically can bring you and say, hey, Priya, what do you think about it? Hey, what do you... And sometimes it's a woman. That's what I started this conference saying. We are a network, and that's what I'm here in a Saturday, giving this conference, because we have to be there for the rest of us. I said, hey, you can talk to another one. I've been in many situations where I'm in a table, in a table with 20 people, and I said, developer, and I see a developer that is trying to add something, and I said, hey, wait, what do you think about it? Hey, what do you have to add? You need to find that person. Why? Because that lady a couple of years ago told me, Anne, you are super brave because you are not scared. You stand up and you get a board and you start writing. And I would love to do that. Well, I can help you. Find that stakeholder and expose the problem without taking it personal to the owner of the meeting. Sorry, we have some comments. It's a supermarket. You're so spare many girls to follow this path. Yes, the world is super masculine. That's what I mentioned about my father. My father is a very good guy, and it was not because I think that he would have taken the same decision with my brother. But yes, well, do you have any story when you had self-advocate in this kind of environment only by the fact of being a woman and not considered? Well, I this is the example I just gave, Priscilla, but I don't take it personal. I don't like to say, hey, they are doing this to me because I am a woman. Despite I have the feeling, and despite somebody else can tell me that's because you are a woman. I see that situation as I'm a threat. I threat them. That's why they turn me off. I could be a woman, I could be a man, I could be whatever. I could be an agent. I'm threatening that person. And that's why that person is reacting to me or turning me off, not because I am a woman. And that is the action, that is what I do. And let me tell you something. There are some spaces where I decided to set aside. It's hard, but there are some spaces where I say, hey, no, I don't like to be here. Sometimes you cannot. Let's be realistic. I mean, sometimes you cannot. But there are some spaces, let's say, barbecue dinner with friends, and there's somebody that turned me off because I said something that is not, or somebody, a man that is competing with me because I'm an executive, or somebody. I've been in situations. This is recorded. I've been in situations where somebody told my husband, you are okay because, I mean, you have a wife that is executive and you do all that because you act like the woman of the couple. And I decided not to, yes, because my husband, as I said, my husband is super supportive with me. He has his career, but there are some moments where basically he decided to travel with me because I had a baby, I'm breastfeeding, and I have to basically go to a conference or I have to go somewhere. And he said, hey, Vane, I'm going with you to keep the baby so that you can breastfeed. We are going to be together for a couple of days and when we are coming back. And I've been in many situations where my husband somebody was super aggressive with my husband, for example. And I felt that as a threat to me, because somebody was threatening his masculinity because he was like helping me. Yes, it means to be supportive. Is the man. I think that I didn't want to mention that because sometimes I might hurt somebody's feeling, but I think that picking a husband also is an interesting decision if you haven't done that. If you have done that, get used to it. No, but
I agree with that.
it is what it is. No, but I didn't want to talk a lot about my husband, but I've been in many situations where I decided to step aside and say, hey, I'm not going to this context because I don't want anybody to be attacking me through my husband. Or I've been in many situations where other women, that's what I say, don't take it personal. I've been in many situations, especially in school, where other women told me, oh, you're not going to be here for this concert where your baby is going to be a cat. And all of a sudden I was in the world tour, whatever, in San Francisco. And of course I was crying, and of course I was not crying. I was super sad because I was not here, but I also, I see that I want my daughter to see that I like what I do, I succeed, and there are different type of moments. When I come back, I am fully present in my house. So, and I had other women telling me, well, that's what I made the decision of quitting my career because I don't want to waste, or I don't want to lose any time with my kids because they grow up and they were women. So that's what I say. Don't take it personal. I mean, if there's something that is hurting your feeling, and if you can move aside, move aside. If you can stop that, not taking it personal, and look for stakeholders. Because in that situation, I was feeling super bad. I was at school, and I had another mother saying, Vane, let's go for a drink. I admire you. You are doing a lot for other women, and your daughter is going to see that you are a superwoman. Let's have a drink. So I go for a drink with that mother that helps me, that they like put something in my daughter's hair so that they can shine that day, and started a conference so that I can be there. And when they went back from the stage, they made a conference so that I can talk to my daughter. And my daughter, Mommy, have you seen it? Yes, you were there, you rock it. And I was in the middle of a Salesforce conference in New York, in a hotel, in the bathroom, trying to look for it. But I was doing my best to be there as a mother and trying to accomplish all that. So again, look for those stakeholders in your life. You don't, if they're boy, girl, husband, sister, whatever, there are going to be a lot of situations. There's going to be a lot of people that cannot keep up with their lives, and they are going to turn your light off because they cannot keep with their life. We have 5 minutes, but my father, when we had a bold conversation, he said, hey, Vane, I couldn't finish college. And when I saw you wasting 5 years of medical school, I couldn't, that was not in my mind. You were so close to become a doctor. I couldn't finish college. So, I mean, and I was paying for your education for, I don't know, 20 years, and all of a sudden I took it personal. Of course, he figured out when I became a software engineer, and when he saw me shining in Microsoft. So that's what I say. Don't take it personal. It's the other person's problem. But if that is hurting you, and that is stopping you, and that is turning your light off, look for somebody that can help you keep up.
Yeah, I see 2 more questions. Shivantika, you want to unmute and ask these 2 questions?
I think one question she's answered. The second one is, yes, Vanessa, what role does self-awareness play in becoming a strong self-advocate, and how can we develop that? Shit, if you can give some advice on this.
What role does
Self-awareness.
self-awareness?
Yeah.
Self-awareness is this toolbox for me. The toolbox and I don't know, self-awareness and self-advocate is like, you don't see me in LinkedIn putting all my story and my toolbox. That's what I said. For the self-advocate, you should be genuine. You should be showing your passion instead of like I don't know, showing your past. What I would recommend, that's what I share this exercise, and that's why I share the story behind this exercise. I didn't hire, and I think that it's super important. I didn't hire a specialist. It was like I got my English teacher. There is a guy that I love, that we've been taking classes for 12 years. In fact, that English teachers once told me, hey, Anne, you are going to UK. They are much more formal. You shouldn't dress that way. Dress in a different way. You should study their culture because, I mean, there are some, you are Latin, and there are some, there are some models that you should turn off. So I took that guy and put together my toolbox. I think that should be that could be a good exercise. Don't hire specialists or like get somebody that knows you, that could be English teacher, could be your a friend or somebody, and said, hey, what do you think that has been my toolbox? Which were my aha moments from my life, not from my career? Because I showed my life. I was super transparent about my life, not about my career. For sure, for example, I had another aha moment was this week when somebody told me, hey, we have to hospitalize your baby. No. Yes, we have to hospital. It was a aha moment because I had a lot of medical knowledge. It was my baby and I couldn't do anything there besides like staying there as a mom, awake all night, like thinking. It was an aha moment. Well, think of those aha moments that were like super groundbreaking from your life and what you took as an outcome from them. And that is your toolbox. And that is your strength. And that is what you should have in your bag every time you feel this imposter syndrome. Thank you, Priscilla.
Okay, so I think we don't have any more questions. Do we have? No. So I think we can wrap up now. Let me share my screen again. Cecilia, would you please do the honors? Are you able to see my screen, Cecilia?
Yes. Perfect.
Yeah.
Okay. Vanessa, thank you very much for sharing your passion and experience today. It was really inspiring. And please receive the certificate of appreciation.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Priya, Priscilla, Cecilia, Shiwanka. Thank you very much. Anytime. I'm here.
Thank you, Vanessa.
Happy Mother's Day for the ones that are celebrating this weekend.
Thank you.
Happy Mother's Day.
Bye. Truly inspired by your story. Definitely. I hope I was like, just wish I was like you. I'm also from the software field, but I'm nowhere near you. But yes, thank you so much for sharing your story as well as your toolbox. And with this, we wrap up our May event. Everyone, please watch our social media handles for our next event where we will be discussing a very interesting topic about mastering the pivot. That means, how do you look for alternate careers in your life? And I think Vanessa is a superb example of such an theme. But with this, it would be held on June 14, 2025. Please to let us know what you think about this event. It will help us to improve further, and we could look for opportunities to bring in more interesting speakers like Vanessa on our events. The link is there, the code is there on the chat window. Please to take the feedback. With this, I think it's time to stop the recording and take a group picture, Cecilia, before we
Okay.
wrap up.